Good afternoon. This is Dawn Wagoner, or I should say good morning for those that are on the Pacific coast of the United States. Thank you for attending our webinar. We're going to be today talking about Google, SEO, content, and lead generation. I know that today you'll be learning a lot or refining a lot of information, and it may be a bit overwhelming, but we really hope that you're able to take 2 or 3 items and implement them immediately at your firm. On a housekeeping note, we love answering questions, and we always find that there's lots of questions around this subject. So please don't hesitate to put your questions into the question box, and we will answer them as they come up or at various transitions or at the end of the webinar. All right, so this is Ingenuity Marketing Group. We have a great team here, and it ranges from everyone from a graphic designer to SEO specialist, social media, content writers. And so you can see these are just a few of the services that we provide. And this is me. This is my very boring professional bio. But let me go to my fun bio. This is my favorite. And I have to point out bullet number 3, watches Hallmark movies, because of course, right now, this time of year, especially at Ingenuity, we're all talking about the Hallmark Christmas movies, and I can't believe that it's the beginning of November and I'm watching Christmas movies, but it makes me relax. And I am proud to introduce Virginia McCoy. Hi. Who will be doing a lot of speaking today. She is one of our communications consultants. She primarily specializes in SEO, social media, and content creation. So if you have any questions, you can certainly ask in those areas. And this is actually the fun bio. We love this picture because Dottie, her dog, looks like he's dressed up. And of course, he loves her so much that he's kissing her in this photo. All right. And this is our agenda today. We're going to talk a little bit about some opportunities that you have, some specific things around technology. We're going to talk about SEO keywords.
You know, we just got a question in the chat box, and it says, I cannot hear any audio. So if you can hear us, could you go ahead and type in the questions box to confirm that you can hear? Because sometimes it's an individual issue. Okay, so, you know, unfortunately, we can't help those who can't hear us. So I'm going to go ahead and address this separately, and I'm going to throw it back to Dawn.
All right, so, and then the last thing that we're going to be talking today in today's agenda is creating and maintaining content. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we have a poll, and we actually have about 4 polls today because we want to find out what our audience is, some of the challenges that you're having and what's going on so that we can make this a little bit customizable for our group. But we're going to launch a poll here, but our question is, what are your top challenges for having your website bring in leads?
Okay, it is launched. So you can go ahead and vote. What a great day to have voting. So far in the lead is creating the right content, always a big challenge with firms we talk to. Next up is unsure what measurements to track. That's always something too. And then last but not least is unclear brand messaging. We're going to give you a little bit more time to answer this. Okay, and I just an update for everybody concerned with the individual who couldn't hear. She has the problem fixed, so we're happy to have her. Wow, and 80% voted so far. I just want to also throw in that one time I did half of a webinar where people couldn't hear me. So that's why I have large concerns around people and their ability to hear what we're saying. Perfect. Should we go ahead and close the poll? Okay. So as far as those top challenges go, 67% said creating the right content is a challenge. 28% said that they were unsure what measurements to track. And then 5% had unclear brand messaging.
All right, so we're going to address a couple of those today. So wonderful, you're definitely in the right spot this afternoon. All right, so let's talk about why we actually want to focus on online marketing content. And this is actually a Hinge study, a Hinge marketing study that was done in 2017, so this year, but it said that high growth firms studied were not only growing much faster, but are 50% more profitable than average and twice as profitable as their no growth counterparts. So what are these high growth firms doing that can make them grow so fast and be more profitable? And these are actually 5 of the top 10 techniques that they're using, marketing techniques, and you can see that 5 of these are actually online techniques. Everything from downloadable educational content, your website, email, advertising, and blogging. So clearly high growth firms are enjoying significantly more impact from this marketing mix than no growth content. And these were just a few of the challenges that this survey has cited that they're experiencing. Is the brand isn't clear, so content isn't either. And we're going to talk briefly about that. The technology feels too mystical. Keywords aren't attracting the right leads. The right measures aren't tracked. And then tracking isn't improving the process. And we do have some experience around all of this. So.
Great, so let's talk about using technology to make Google love your website, because of course, Google is technology, so we want to address that. So just some basics of SEO, that's one area that I really focus on, and I get really geeky and talk very technical sometimes, so I might slow down every once in a while to make sure it makes sense. But really, as far as the basics of optimizing your website core search engines go, first of all, you want to focus on giving people the content they want. So making sure you're solving problems, helping them learn, or supporting a decision. These are the things that you need to be thinking about when creating content. And then also make it easy to access. So make sure it's scannable, so adding bullets and bold headings. Think about using videos and adding captions to your videos as well. One recent video that we published on the Ingenuity Facebook page, we saw that 70% of viewers didn't have the sound on. So that's something to think about too, is sometimes they're sitting at their computers and they might, want to know more about your topic, but they don't want to have the sound on for one reason or another. And so having those captions as well. Also providing your content in multiple formats. People learn in different ways, so making sure you have that. And then one thing we'll talk about in a second is making sure it's mobile friendly. So much of the buying process and the learning process is done online through your phone now, that you really want to make sure that everything is accessible in different areas, especially through mobile devices. So here is one handy dandy tool that Google provides for free. This is one area that we wanted to address because it can be just a make or break with your website as far as mobile friendliness goes. So a while ago, and I have a hard time with my Google timeline, but Google announced that the mobile friendliness of your website, so whether or not it would look the same across a mobile device or your personal computer, you wanted to make sure that it was the same and that the user was getting the same experience. So they launched this tool, and really the mobile accessibility of your website is a huge factor in determining whether or not it's going to get ranked. So they provide this handy dandy tool, and we're going to show you an example of how it would look if your website were or were not mobile friendly. So this is a mobile friendly test that we ran. And this was full disclosure, the PwC website, I ran it again, and it is now mobile friendly. However, at one point it was not, and I luckily caught it in that moment. So this is kind of how the results would look if you ran your website through the mobile friendly test through Google and it was not mobile friendly. So you'll see here that it shows that it's not. Big red X is on the page, and then it tells you kind of how Google sees your website and how you can make your page mobile friendly. And again, this is how it looks. So we all know that as far as that pinching goes, pinching and expanding, people just aren't a fan of that anymore, and they don't expect your website to have that. So of course, it's very important for your website to be mobile friendly. And showing those results again, so Google is nice enough to share reasons why it's not mobile friendly. So it'll show you, okay, your text is too small to read, the links are too close together, the mobile viewport is not set, or the content is wider than the screen. And then here we have a website that is mobile friendly and was mobile friendly when we ran the test. So happy to see that. But this is BAA, and their website is very mobile friendly. So you'll see this is the kind of result that shows up from Google where it says, awesome, this page is mobile friendly. And it shows you what the website would look like. So it's very helpful information to have. And although I'm sure many people are thinking right now, well, aren't all websites mobile friendly at this point? We actually spoke with somebody recently whose website was not mobile friendly, and I was shocked and just terrified by the result. But it's something that still comes up, and honestly, with some websites, you don't necessarily, if you're looking at it from your PC at work, you don't necessarily know that it's not mobile friendly. So it's something that you definitely need to be checking, and that can be one of the biggest things when you first are looking at your SEO process and your online process and making sure Google loves your website is by looking at that first.
And I would say, Virginia, too, from a mobile-friendly standpoint, it's almost the foundation of any online marketing, because if you don't have a mobile-friendly site, any SEO keywords that you're adding into your content, adding content is almost not a waste of time, but it's not going to be as effective.
Exactly. So we have the mobile site. Now what? So now that we've confirmed that our website is mobile friendly, so we can focus on other fixes. So we're going to go ahead and run another poll. And for this one, you're going to be answering, what is your biggest concern about SEO? Some people are just scared of it, but we have some answers to choose from, and we're going to go ahead and launch this poll. Hopefully you see here the options are Google's constant algorithm updates. I know that's one concern that I talk to clients about a lot, is they don't know how to keep up with it. And honestly, since they're our clients, they're happy because they don't have to keep up on it. And I don't expect any accountant or engineer or anybody to have to figure that out, because that's not what you went to school for. Also, having the right keywords, which I see as a common concern across the board. And then also unsure what to update on the website. So your website can seem like such an overwhelming tool, and there's so many possibilities with it, so you don't even know where to start. That's something we hear a lot too. So we'll give you a little bit more time to answer this poll. If I were like a track record or something where I said, okay, so-and-so's in the lead. Right now, having the right keywords and unsure what to update on the website is neck and neck. And then behind that is Google's content algorithm updates. Give you a little bit more time, a few seconds left to answer the poll if you have not. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close it. As far as the results go, having the right keywords, 42% was a concern for you. Unsure what to update on the website, 40%. And then Google's constant algorithm updates was 19%. So I hear you. I understand your pain. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this. So the next step after making sure that your website's mobile friendly and that your content is mobile friendly is making sure that you love your keywords and that you show your keywords the love that they deserve. One study we found with a millennial B2B report found that search engine results are the most important out of all of the ways that they collect information, is that they are researching new services. They want to make sure that search engines have the right responses. So that's one reason as B2B buyers become more and more, online adapted, then we want to make sure that your keywords are showing the results that you deserve. So how can your website get ranked in search engines? Definitely with keywords. I keep saying keywords because they are so important. And again, Google and other search engines are updating their algorithms all the time. So I know that was one concern that was addressed, was it's constantly updating the algorithm. How do I keep up with it? One of the ways that we've managed to do well with our clients at Ingenuity is that we've really focused on making sure that the content that we create and that our clients create is really friendly to the user. So that's one just big thing to get out of the way, is if you're making your users happy and then also tracking the results, which we'll talk about, it's that much easier to not be as concerned with the Google algorithm updates, because many of the updates they have, so for example, mobile friendliness, as well as recently, I think the most recent update was, there was one where places that were showing up, so for example, this is hard to explain without visualizing it, but if there were two accounting firms in the same building, it was difficult for them to show up and search for that location. However, Google's updated that recently. So just keeping up with those is just making sure that your content is as friendly to the user as possible. So as far as those keywords go, we have an example here of keywords in action. And this is actually also a client story that we'll go over in a little bit. But one client that we're working with, Sykes & Company, we're working with them to rank for the keywords. So we work with them to identify which keywords they want to be found for. So for example, pharmacy accountant. And then we create content accordingly, or work with them to create the content. So this is one thing to think about as you're thinking, I'm not sure what content to create or which keywords to go for, is think about, if you talk to the principals of your firm, or if you thought about as a principal at the firm, what do I want to be known for, or what I want to show up for in search, is definitely, that's a great way to kind of start as far as where you want to get your keywords.
Yeah, and actually, they just changed their strategy just a bit because it's an ongoing initiative. He wanted to add bookkeeping to his keywords. And so we did a little bit of research and then made recommendations for keywords around bookkeeping.
And next up, what we're going to do is I'm going to share this super secret tool that gives you free insight on potential keywords. So it's the Google Keyword Planner. And actually, if you have a Google account, you have access to the keyword planner. So it might not be super secret, but many people, as far as SEO and keywords go, it's very, again, mystical. And just such a great word to use. So it can be overwhelming. So the Google Keyword Planner is definitely a great launching point if you are trying to look at keywords and how often they're searched and how difficult they are to compete for. So as far as determining which keywords you want to pick, really launching into Keyword Planner and looking at that. So one example I found, if we were doing keyword searches on jokes about engineering, I found that mechanical engineering jokes would get potentially 67 impressions over the next month, while structural engineering jokes would get 1,600 impressions over the next month. So that's why it's important to think about not only what you want to rank for, but running them through a tool such as the keyword planner that will show you kind of how many times they would be searched for, how difficult it would be to rank for those keywords. And the example we have here is just another great example. It's the keyword planner in action. So our keyword idea was forensic accounting, and then it provided a few other suggested keywords such as certified forensic accountant, forensic audit, forensic accounting certification. And you'll see here the average monthly searches and then the competition. So it goes low, medium, high. So low competition means it's a little bit easier to rank for them. And then high competition means it's more difficult. So that's just kind of an overview of the keyword planner. So after you have your keywords done, you have your list of keywords. We don't recommend more than 30 to be ranking for. Ideally, you would even look to go for 20 before you kind of expand your reach. But after you have those keywords, you would go ahead and update your website so that it's more Google friendly. And we use the term Google a lot, but this really works across search engines. So if you're more of a Bing lover, then these rules apply as well. So definitely making sure that your keywords are going in the page title and the meta description and header tags, and we'll show you how that looks in a moment, as well as the body copy of the website. Internal links, making sure that you're linking between, and then also the URL. So for example, if you have a blog post on forensic accounting, try to fit in that forensic accounting language into the URL if possible. And just one more note, actually, now that I'm thinking through with the why you're updating this on the back end of the site, because of course this is something that I understand, but I want to make sure you understand as well, is what it does is once you've updated these pieces of your website, that's how Google realizes what your content is about. So that's what it reads to see, okay, they have in their page title an H1 tag that they are forensic accountants, so we're going to group them into this in this area when people search for that term. So I just want to make sure I address that as well, not to jump ahead of you. So here we have the page title and H1 examples. So the page title shows up at the top of the browser window. So up here on this example would be accounting for pharmacies is the part of the page title. And then the H1 is usually the headline above the content. So that would be that independent pharmacy tax compliance, peace of mind. We also mentioned H2s on the most previous page. That was something that's more important to Google as of recent. And what H2s do is you have, for example, the H1, which would be that independent pharmacy tax, but then the H2 would be a sub-paragraph where you're talking about another specific topic that you want to maybe be ranked for, but doesn't fit with the H1. We have another great example here as far as the BAA website goes. So why choose 3D modeling for industrial design? That would be the H1. And as a bonus on this slide, it incorporates a question. So questions are really great for search, especially mobile voice searches. That, as you can imagine, is becoming more common with Google, where we're asking our phones for so much information that by incorporating a question, you're really helping your chances of showing up for those search results. Then we have the meta description. So we have an example here where it shows in search results along with the page title. So here we have Toolkit Ingenuity Marketing Group LLC. That would be the page title. And then the Ingenuity Marketing Group's examples of great ads in public relations for accountants, accounting firms, that is the meta description. So just to give you some context as far as, okay, I'm updating this information on my website, where is it showing up? These are some of the areas that are where it will show up in search. Then with meta descriptions, make sure that you're using your meta description as a call to action. So try to make sure that it's something where you're telling them to click through to your website, because as we know, there's so many results for search that your call to action to make sure they click through could be the differentiator to the user. And this is the description that people see on the page of Google results after they search. So if you leave it empty, one thing that often happens, then Google will kind of make it up with your web copy, which is a real lost opportunity, because it could end up pulling just a segment of copy from your website that has nothing to do with what you want people to go to the page for. So that's really something to make sure you update on your website. We have another example here of a well done page for SEO-wise purposes. So the top concerns when outsourcing your accounts receivable portfolio, that would be the page title. We also hit a couple of keywords in the description here. We have a video, which is great for search results. And then we have the call to action at the bottom. So we're showing them the frequently asked questions of new TCD clients. So that's just one other example for you to look to when you're looking at optimizing your web copy. So we have here that tracking really drives your future content, and the best way to know what your prospects need is to see what people are looking for, what they read, and what they spend time on. So that's one thing that can often happen when we start working with clients, is we find that they've maybe updated their website with their keywords, but then kind of forgot about it. So it's really important to make sure that you're looking to your keywords to drive that content and tracking the results. You can look at what's working and what's not to keep that progression up on Google and make sure that you're helping your chances of showing up in search. And one thing that to know about tracking your results is if you're looking to rank for certain keywords, one of the great tools that you can also use if you have a Google account is Search Console. So Google Search Console can be activated on any sites that have Google Analytics. And what it does is it shows you what keywords are driving traffic to your website. So this is just kind of a preview of what the Search Console looks like. And we have some key terms that we want you to know. And if you decide to go through this SEO process and then you're tracking it through Google Search Console, we want to make sure that you're tracking great results. So impressions are when a site appears on a list as a result of a search. The clicks are when a user clicks on the search engine listing. The CTR, or the click-through rate, is the percent of people who see your results, they're the impression, and then click through to your site. And then the position is how high up in the results your site was listed. And I want to make sure that the position is really looked at when you're looking at Search Console, because I'll give you an example here. We have Ingenuity Search Console board here, and you can sort by different columns. This one is sorted by impressions. And really all of them are important. And usually using the first one as an example, the SEO professional services, we have 1,300 impressions. But then there's a 0 click-through rate. So if I were to just give that impressions and click-through rate, that might raise concern. But then when you look at the position, you'll see that it's 17.7. So on average, it would show up at about the second, maybe sometimes the third page of Google. And very few people, about 6%, go beyond the first page of Google. So that would be why people aren't clicking through to the website. So all of these columns are really important, but this is just one way to kind of track how people are getting to your website and whether or not they're clicking through. So for SEO professional services, if we looked at the impressions, looked at the click-through rate, and it was still 0, but the position was 1, then that would be really the need for concern. And this is just a really good way to track what's going to your website and then see if there's any room for improvement. And then we're going to talk about content next. And we wanted to share a breakdown of the types of content that users find helpful. So once you have those keywords and you're thinking about the types of content that you want to be creating, we found that, you know, training and demos are the most popular, as well as product or service news. So making sure that you're keeping your audience informed and then finding ways to incorporate your keywords into that content to really rank for different keywords on search engines such as Google.
All right, so how important is content? And actually, this was a study done by Acrylics, and it is well-written content more effective than poorly written content? And does it actually make consumers more likely to buy the brands, click on offers, or purchase products or services? And what you find out here is that that it's actually better scoring or better content, low scoring content was less than half as likely to generate trust. So you want to actually have well-written content, and that will actually create better results for you. And then you can see that content drives conversion. So would you click on an offer? And if it's well-written, 60% said that they would click on that offer. And then it actually does influence intent as well. And so would you buy from this company? And 51% said that they would. So you can see that really content and well-written content particularly can influence behavior. And so here was another survey of B2B buyers conducted by Demand Gen report. They found that 82% of senior executives said that content was a significant driver in their buying decisions. And we will talk about here shortly how to create and maintain content, because I know a lot of you feel that's a little overwhelmed by that. But let's go to the next survey, and this was a study actually done by Hinge Marketing. I believe it was this year, and the higher your perceived expertise, the higher your hourly rate, or your professional's hourly rate could be, which actually then obviously means bringing more money to the firm. And how buyers find visible experts, 30.6% find them online. So you can see how important online is in showcasing your expertise in well-written or thought leadership type pieces of content. All right, and I believe we have another poll.
We do.
And so we are curious, how are you and your firms getting clients? And we're gonna see if any of these techniques are actually working for you. All right, so we're gonna launch that poll, which is open right now. So just take a couple minutes here.
So far, recommendations and referrals is in the lead, 100%. We also have online, publications and speaking, trade associations and conferences, and then a listing of top experts. Recommendations and referrals is kicking butt here.
And I can understand. I think we're going to continue to see that, but I think what happens is they get a recommendation or a referral from someone, and then they go online and look to see, and it kind of justifies their decision, or they're getting more than one reference or referral, and now you have to compete with the other referrals that they're getting.
Yeah, and I've been seeing that more and more with the clients that I talk to, where they're getting 2 or 3 referrals for a certain client, and then you know, it really has been up to the website, that first impression of the individuals at the firm. I've heard fewer and fewer of, you know, my referral gave just me as a recommendation. So unfortunately, it's very nice of them to be so, you know, nice about it, but at the same time.
All right, so okay. Where are we at, Virginia?
So I think everybody's had time to vote, and we have 90% of you get your clients from recommendations, referrals. 5% said online, and then 5% said trade associations and conferences.
All right, so I think that will continue as we progress, and it just depends on the type of online marketing that you're doing, and I think there is an opportunity for all of those 90% out there to to bring in business via online. And we're going to show you a couple of examples here shortly about how a couple of our clients are actually doing that. Okay, so we told you how great content is and how it can actually be beneficial. And we told you that obviously based on the surveys that you must have it, but how do you actually create it and maintain it? And so we actually have another poll. Sorry guys, we're curious.
We love learning from people we talk to.
So we want to know who is in charge of creating and maintaining content at your firm. And we have a few different options here.
So more of that coordinator level, that director level, the technical experts, or maybe a firm administrator. And then we also just want to know, and this one you can actually select more than one. And if your IT is needed for website updates, we'd love to know. So far, the marketing director is in the lead at 61%, followed by the marketing coordinator, 40%, technical experts, and then the administrator. It's always fascinating to watch.
Well, it is election day, Virginia.
I know. That's why we have so many polls in here.
All right, should we launch it?
Yeah. Okay. So as far as the results go, we have 44% of marketing coordinators are doing the creating and maintaining of content, 53% of marketing directors, 36% are the technical experts, and then 14% is for firm administrators, and then 6% of you said that IT is needed for website updates.
All right. And I would say regardless of the person who is responsible for the content, you have to make sure that you actually have a strategy around the creation of this content. And the first thing that you want to do is actually think about your buyer. We are constantly being bombarded and being sold to, and so your content actually needs to be more personal than ever. And so making sure that this is something that your audience, whatever specific service that they may have or an industry, and that it's worthwhile content to them. So we found this handy dandy little image here, and I love this because it really simplifies things. But if you ask yourself these three questions: what are we trying to sell? Who is my audience? And how will I promote it? And these are the things that you need to consider when you're putting together your content strategy. And here at Ingenuity, it's really interesting because we actually have a template that we do when we're doing any content, especially around nurturing sequences and lead generation. We look at, okay, the pains, what else are they getting, the offer that we're making, what we're trying, the service, I mean, everything. And so it's really good to think through all of these and what that looks like when you're creating content.
Okay, so one other thing that you're thinking through while you're considering your audience is think about having personas. So we have an example of personas here. And what a persona is, in case you're unfamiliar, is it's basically a profile of your best clients that you use to determine marketing and business development activities. And we found in a recent study that a large portion of those high growth firms were actually doing regular research on their clients and making sure they really understood what their clients thought before moving forward in activities. So we have this example here. And first of all, you have the title. You have, he's the owner operator. This is Dan. We always like to name them just to put a name to a face. It's always helpful. We have his age here and age range. And then roughly the size of the firm, because that's one way that you can quickly qualify out somebody if you're talking to them. If they're too small or maybe too big for your services, then that's something that you need to be considering when you're doing your marketing and business development. You'll also see here that we have the niche focus. So many of these, especially when we work with clients, we'll create one around a specific niche so that they know exactly who they're selling to when they're going out and driving business to their firm. And then there's information about the decision-making process at his firm. So that's something that you also need to definitely know when you're talking to anybody or thinking about the content that you're promoting for them is, what is their decision-making process? Should I be talking to him? Should I be talking to somebody else? Do we need another persona? And then you also need to think about what they're reading, what events they're attending, and then most importantly, the pains and challenges that they're facing, so that your content isn't a waste of your time that won't be seen by the buyer, but making sure that you're talking to Dan and the pains and challenges that he's facing as the owner and operator. Editorial calendars are also a great way to help with that creation and maintaining of content. We have an example here from HubSpot. We at Ingenuity have our own content calendars as well. We have an editorial calendar that we use for content and PR and e-blasts for clients, just to make sure that we have a great overview of what's being communicated to the clients of our clients. And then we also have a separate one that we use for social media posting, where we get everything done up front with a strategic focus, and then we drive it through the month. It saves us a lot of time by having these calendars in place, so that we're not constantly trying to think of day-to-day or week-to-week or month-to-month basis, but we have it kind of drawn out as far in advance as possible. And what this really does is make sure that you have a really consistent presence online, so that Google realizes that your website and that your social media pages are updated, which means that you're going to stay on top of the results that you need. We have a listing here of the high value formats. So HubSpot gave this list of the most high value formats in order to, of highest performing for lead generation. And I was joking with Dawn actually that, okay, so basically any form of content will help here. But some of the ones that we really focus on at Ingenuity are the ebooks or guides. We work on those often with clients, especially if they're able to download it and if you can gate the content. So somebody has to fill out their name, their email address to get the content, that's always helpful as well, because then you know who's coming to your website. Also, the research and reports. So recently we have been working on more and more studies with firms and then compiling the findings. So we talk to their clients or the people that they hope to be clients on specific topics, especially if it's a niche area focus. We love doing that and talking to them about, you know, the questions that they have of realizing their pains, and then putting that information together. Then that's something that they can put out to their clients to show that they're staying on top of the industry. Also, on-demand videos. So again, they're great for search, but that's something that we've been working with our clients on. And as you might have seen if you follow us on social media, we've been posting more of our own videos, which is fun. And then blog posts. So making sure that that presence is updated at least 2 times a month at a minimum, then that'll help Google and search engines realize that your website and content is up to date. And really, as far as that communication goes, making sure that it's an open line of communication. So keep talking to prospects and clients offline. Often you'll get new ideas for new content from these conversations. And then make sure everyone involved in business development knows what content is available to them and who to tell if they come across for a new idea. That can be a really scary breakdown, is when they're not talking to each other, and so it's just a madhouse of content and the wrong business development tactics in place.
All right, so we're going to show you a couple examples of actually how adding content can be beneficial. And this is Cornwall Jackson. They are based in Texas, and we have worked with them to develop over the last couple of years. I don't know how many pieces of content. I think at one point, I'm not sure, it was white paper every quarter, and we would break it down into 3 or 4 different blogs. And the results, we're showing that qualified leads are coming from email capture. She also uses HubSpot, social media posts, and longer time on site. And some niche pages are actually experiencing a 0% bounce rate as visitors navigate to other pages of the site. And when Virginia was talking about those internal links from SEO basics, that's kind of what we're talking about, like making sure they stay on the site and you are leading them through what you want them to do next. But the content is actually helping the firm rank better for key phrases within their niches, as well as elevating their reputation in their industries. And I believe also the firm has gotten some PR out of the content, as well as several clients too. So here's another client, and we spoke a little bit about Sykes & Company. They are a North Carolina CPA firm, and they focus on pharmacy accounting. And we actually do, we record videos, and we work on their SEO and content strategy. And we record like 3 to 4, if not more, videos at a shot. And so all in, and there's a couple now, all in Scotty and Chris Sykes, periodically every few months, we get on Skype with them and we ask them various questions. We develop a strategy around what content they want to post, and then we edit the videos, post them on YouTube, get them to their website, and promote them via social media. And he will say that clients have come into and contacted him, and they will say that the videos were the reasons why they called. And so it actually is working in choosing his firm.
So we have here some common mistakes to avoid. The first one with review cycles are too long and involve too many people. I'm sure that none of us have been there. But really with timely information, remember that you can edit it later, but if it is timely and relevant, making sure that you're getting that up as soon as possible, especially if it's just, you know, a recent topic that's really hot. Make sure that you're creating content around that. The subject matter experts try to create their own content and get bogged down rather than relying on content experts. One thing that we see with that is also don't let them kill your keywords. So for example, at Ingenuity, we highlight keywords when we use them in copy so that people know not to touch them, because those keyword phrases can be so specific that we want to make sure that, and if we want to make sure we're ranking for them, we don't want people to kill them. So sometimes they might sound a little bit funny, but usually they flow well into the copy. And that's one thing to make sure you address with the subject matter experts. Marketing releases, great content and business development isn't paying attention and leveraging it. So make sure you're distributing it. So making sure you're telling your team. So at Ingenuity, when we create new content, we tell the team that it's up and running. Make sure you're doing that as well through e-blast, social media, and then sharing with your team, because some people aren't afraid to say, oh, I didn't realize that was up on our website, when somebody congratulates on content. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then business development personnel fail to tell marketing the kinds of content they really need. So making sure that you're just communicating with each other, and also making sure that you're not making content too generic and not speaking to the right audience. Because I know that's something that can happen when people are talking about content, is they'll try to water it down to reach multiple audiences. But when you water down content to a certain level, then it just doesn't speak to anybody, and it's not helpful. Okay, so we have our contact information here, and we'll also be sending you out these slides at the end of this presentation, as well as a link to the recording when we're done. But we wanted to make sure that we left plenty of room for questions. Again, we know that this is always a hot topic for questions, and even when I'm talking to clients about their SEO strategy, we get many of them. So I see we have multiple questions right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and we'll read through these. Okay, so one of the first questions that I see is, how do we find the Google Keyword Center? Is there a link? Well, actually, one thing that I love about using Google is that if you're not sure where something is Google it. I Google it all the time. So how it would work is Google Keyword Planner is within Google AdWords. You don't need a paid Google AdWords account. That's one thing that comes up often, is people are concerned, like they don't want to have to be paying to do their research. So that's one thing that that you can definitely do is it's called the Google Keyword Planner, and you can look that up, and then we can also send a link to it when we're done, just so that you have that direct link. But it's within Google AdWords, so that's one thing to address. And then, do you mean 20 to 30 keywords per site or per page overall? That's a great question, and I'm sorry that I wasn't clear in explaining that, but just to give you kind of an overview, one thing that we often find when we're working with clients on their keyword list is they want to rank for pretty much every word that they've ever thought of that's related to their service or niche. And what we try to do is focus on 20 to 30 keywords, so this is typically overall. So when you're starting out your SEO strategy, focusing on just 20 to 30 keywords just as a kickoff point of what you want to be ranking for. Because if you try to rank for too many, it can get overwhelming, and you'll find that you're not going for as many of those focused keywords as you want to. So just making sure that you have a specific list.
And we usually recommend 3 to 4 areas, meaning it could be location, it could be careers, it could be manufacturing, or it could be estate planning. And so those 20 to 30 keywords within those 4 areas. Otherwise, it just gets to be too much that you're trying to manage, and you really want to focus is key.
Definitely. See, I'm just reading through the questions, and I don't know if anybody here uses GoToWebinar, but sometimes it's so small. So I'm just kind of looking through those. Oh, infographic is not on the list of content. So that's one thing, you know, that's a great point that you've made, is the infographic on the list of types of content to get people's attention. I would say that definitely if you have the ability to do an infographic and then lead to a blog, that would be ideal. So making sure not only focusing on just one type of content, but if you could have like one piece of content that you share, for example, on LinkedIn that catches people's eyes, and then link to another, say, blog post or something that's a little bit drier, that would be a great kind of tactic to take there. Is there a level of popularity in keywords to say below? That's a good, interesting question. Yeah, so just to give you an idea of when we're ranking keywords at Ingenuity, what we try to go for is we'll recommend keywords that are pretty well searched and have a low to medium competition rate, just because if we try to go for something that gets a ton of searches every month but is really hard to rank for, that means we'll have to work that much harder to rank for them. So we'll find keywords that are, you know, also getting ranked or getting searched by people on a regular basis. We also look at their area specifically, but it's just, it'll make your process, especially when you're starting off, that much easier to kind of gain some momentum with Google, and then you can show up in keyword searches for those more difficult searches. Oh, is there a bounce rate for a page that is ideal? That's a great question. All these questions are great, just so you know. But what we usually look for is bounce rate that's between about 40 to 60% is pretty average. One thing to note, and I don't mean to let you down, however, if your bounce rate is extremely low, like 6 or 7%, that might mean that something's wrong with your website, which I always feel bad saying that to people because you're very excited when you're like, yes, people are staying on my site. But if it is that low, make sure that you're looking at your website analytics a little bit clearer. So for example, we had a client recently that had that 6% bounce rate, and I had to deliver the bad news that, you know, we would love for your bounce rate to be this low. However, their Google Analytics code, which tracks how many people are going to the site and how long they're staying, was on the website twice in 2 different places where it was duplicating traffic but then cutting other numbers in half. So that's just something to look for. So definitely between that 40 and 60 range is that ideal range. But if it's in the 70s or 80%, then trying to update the calls to action so that people are staying on your site. Oh, is the downloadable educational content usually free, or people subscribe to a website to gain access? Another great question. And I don't want to hog all the questions.
No, I would say it should be a mix. I would say you should offer some content free, but then there's specific things that you want to gate that could be more valuable, like a white paper, and then that would then be unfree, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
Or they have to give something in return to receive it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Dawn. I didn't want to jump in again. I'm going to hog all the questions. So it feels like as a marketer, you really have to write for SEO. Is this true? Can you speak to this? So that's another excellent question. And as far as those SEO keywords go, you definitely do want to make sure they're in the copy on the back end of your website, so in the meta description, the page titles. And then one conversation that I recently had with a client was they wanted to know if I want to rank for this specific keyword, but I write on a related topic, do I have to use the keyword? And a description that I heard also recently that was really helpful was comparing it to a kitchen. So let's say you have one article about a kitchen, and then you have another article that is about a stove and a refrigerator and words that are related to kitchen. But if you're not using the word kitchen, then you're not going to rank for it. So make sure you're still telling Google what the topic is that you're focusing on. So even though it might sound a little bit funny to add in that extra detail that your copy is about this, making sure you're adding it in just so Google understands what your content is about. We have a couple of other questions. If I haven't answered your question yet, or if Dawn hasn't, that means we're going to address them individually after a little bit of research, because I'm not afraid to say I don't know.
Yeah, we have
look that up for you.
We have a direct WordPress question, so we will speak to Robert, our graphic designer, website guru, about that. All right. Any other questions?
Make sure that you do go to that landing page we have up on the screen right now, ingenuitymarketing.com/thanks-love-Google, so that you can get more information about all of these great SEO tools. We actually have a checklist that we're sharing on that page. So you want to make sure that you're going through your website and checking off those Google loves. But otherwise, we're always happy to answer questions and geek out a little bit.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time today, and feel free to contact us if you have any other questions, and thank you very much.